Hey, what's up everyone? Nima here, and today I'm going to do a little bit different video than normal. There's about 3 small things I wanted to discuss today, not really get into a full game review or something of that nature. And one of the things I wanted to focus on is people saying, why do gamers hate the Switch Pro, or the Switch 2, or whatever the successor to the Nintendo Switch is. Why is there so much hate for it? And I want to tackle that question, but we'll get into that towards the end of the video. First, I want to discuss something that, I kind of predicted, but we all knew was going to happen. And that was at the House of Indies on Friday. Finally, Golf Story got released. And needless to say, there was a lot of excitement about Golf Story being released. This was the kind of big Christmas gift from Nintendo, and it came in at like a $14.99 price tag, so it was definitely easy to justify the purchase. As we know, these games are gonna be at least 10 to 20 hours long, and Sports Story seems to be a lot bigger in not only size but scope and story narrative. A lot of people picked it up, and a lot of people are very excited to get to play it, I being one of them. But we have heard that there is a game-breaking glitch where you can't go any further, and this was discovered rather early on. I want to say by Friday evening there were people talking about it when this was just released in the afternoon, maybe? So I don't know exactly how long, or I can't give you any of the ideas of when this thing comes up. I haven't got to it yet, apparently. But I will say I have also seen the other complaints and experienced it myself of having the screen stuttering. It's very jarring, and it's weird how it does it, especially coming from a team that we know can produce really good games. I don't understand what the problem is or why they're having it, but luckily they've already reached out to the community on Twitter, and they've said, we're going to fix these problems, and we can definitely rely on them to do just that. Now, the other thing I want to talk about comes from, my own experience, to be honest, and I gotta ask you guys, do you think games should have easy modes, or in some cases, invincible modes? Well, why I bring this up is because there's this game called Celeste, and it has a very deep storyline. I think it really hits hard for people like me who have anxiety or people who have depression. It really takes that idea and just visualizes it. There's this mountain, this almost unclimbable mountain that Madeline must climb. And as you're going through this, you'll find different aspects of yourself, your self-doubt, your self-hatred, and you're confronting these. And, the whole metaphor of the mountain, I think, could not be more perfect. There's parts in this game, I'll be honest, were not fun. They actually, gave me some bad memories, if you will. They really know how to show you how a panic attack feels, things like that. But I'm going to be honest, I would have never been able to experience any of that game had I decided to actually just play it normally. So I've been trying to beat that game for a while, and I finally decided, you know what, I'm never going to. There is no way I have the skill to beat this game. I only got into, I think, the 3rd level, and I just couldn't go any further. And the frustration was overriding whatever joy the game was giving me. And I decided, what's the point? I don't have the pride in this. I'm not going to go around and tell people how great of a gamer I am because I beat Celeste. No, I just want to experience the story. So I did, in fact, switch it to the invincible mode. And I think, in some ways, it was a good thing I did that. Because I wouldn't have experienced the story. I wouldn't experience the game. When people talk about how great it is, I wouldn't be able to understand what they were talking about. And I think that even the game understands that. And that's why they have the assist mode on. That's why they have that invincibility mode, so that it isn't so inaccessible. But a lot of people don't know that, and they just go by the fact that this game is really hard. I don't know. I'm stuck in between two worlds where, yes, there is this achievement about it. And, all good things come from a lot of hard work. But there are some things that just aren't. I don't want to say it's not worth it. Some things that aren't attainable for certain people. There are experiences in a lot of games that probably are not going to be experienced by a lot of people just due to the difficulty. Everyone loves Elden Ring, but I can almost guarantee you not as many people who play Elden Ring have ever even beaten Elden Ring. It's an interesting discussion, especially when it comes to gaming, because we have, two sides of a coin. The duality of gaming is you want it to be difficult to an extent. You want it to give you some pushback, but you don't want it to be inaccessible. You want the game to be able to stand on its merit of being an actual game, not just, something that you can introduce to your children. You don't want it to be Dora the Explorer, where you're just jumping and there's no threat. That's not fun. But at the same time, I personally never got into Bloodborne because of the difficulty. I tried so many times and just was unable to ever get that game going for me. And, I understand the idea of, Elden Ring. And why I keep bringing that up is because that is a game that has allowed me to finally start to appreciate the Souls-like games, because it isn't as difficult. Or something like Death's Door, which opened up a whole world for me. It's difficult, but it's not the most difficult game, and there's many people who will tell you that, oh, that's that Death's Door game, that one's really hard, right? And it's not really. I mean, it is, but it's obtainable. And I think that that's what makes a game like Elden Ring so special, is it's obtainable. You can get there. But there's a lot of games that are not, but are still really good games. Demon Souls is one I can think of that it's such a beautiful game. There's so many cool bosses in it, and I recently have gotten pretty close to the ending of it, but it took me years, essentially. Like, that's not very obtainable for the average gamer, and I understand you don't always want casuals to be able to experience a game, but at the same time, if you don't, then how are you making any money? How are you going to continue making a good game if no one's buying them? That's all I'm saying. And I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are on easy mode, invincibility mode, the ability to just skip levels. Like, what are your thoughts on all that? Anyway, the final thing I want to talk about, though, is the hatred of the Switch Pro, or the Switch 2, or whatever you want to call it. So, on the most recent episode of the Spawncast, they talked about this, and even saying people like RGT and even Spawnwave himself saying, you get so much hate for covering a potential Switch 2 and saying, it's inevitable, it's going to happen, it's going to come. People give them so much hate for that, and talking even to some other video game journalists, they had to say the same thing. In fact, Forbes recently had an article, I can't remember if it's a month or two ago I read it, they were talking about the same thing. People don't want the Switch 2. And that's not true. I don't think that that's the problem. As, I can say we're not a monolith, but I can say as a Switch player, as a gamer in general, it's not about we don't want this. We're just tired of hearing about it. I mean, I think for the last 2, maybe even 3 years, I've heard about a successor to the Nintendo Switch. It just can't keep up. We need another version. And the reality is, that's true. We do. But how many clickbait videos are we going to have to go through or read in articles of them talking about this updated Switch Pro, Switch 2, whatever you want to call it, and it never to materialize? And that's part of it. Like, anytime you want to bring it up, we're just tired of hearing about it. It's not like either present it or shut up. You know, it's that idea. But then there's another aspect of it too that I have to, really touch on, as you hear people, RGT being one of them, who just, he's fed up. Like, why don't people want to get it? Blah, 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 blah. Well, the thing is, we don't have the money like they do. We don't get to write off a console as being a business expense. We have to pay for them. And especially right now, but honestly at any point in time, as it's been pointed out that the average family could go bankrupt by a $500 bill. So with that in mind, you're wanting to say, hey, here's another version of this thing you already have, but it's powerful and it's going to cost you $400 or $500. That sucks. Like, many of us are not excited to have to look at another bill like that, but let's be honest, we almost have to. It becomes more of a chore or a headache that we're gonna have to deal with if we want to play the newest games. And especially when they talk about something like Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Well, that sucks, because we've been waiting around for 5 years with these other Switches, and now, all of a sudden, we're gonna make a better Switch, and that's what's gonna run on Tears of the Kingdom. Like, no, we don't got money like that. We don't have money just to throw down for an entirely new system and get, a game. It's not like that for us out here. Yeah, if you're a semi-famous YouTuber, sure, you can do that, no problem. And you can complain all the way to the bank while you're also making content on that new console. But the other issue, I think, is we don't know what Nintendo is going to do. I mean, it is 2022, basically 2023, and do you have full confidence that if Nintendo does release another console, let's just say it's a successor in some way to the Switch, are you positive that everything you bought in digitally is going to carry over? I'm not. Because going from the Wii, the Wii U, the Virtual Console, where a lot of people spent a good chunk of money, then they get the Switch and they're like, okay, well, this should be no problem. We don't have the Virtual Console. They don't have the ability to purchase any, or to claim any of the games that they've already purchased and to play them. That's a problem. And, I think when you look at Xbox or PlayStation, you're pretty sure they're going to do that. They took a giant L way back in the 360 PS3 days when they didn't convert as many things over. And so when we saw the PS4 to PS5 and the Xbox One to Series X, we saw that they converted them over. They already learned their lesson. But has Nintendo really learned their lesson? Not really. I mean, what should have been a Godsmack ended up being their biggest selling console. Arguably. I know it's still behind the DS, but there's another point. We don't know if Nintendo is even going to make another Switch, because Nintendo is weird. Their most popular device is the DS. The 2DS, 3DS all have the same SKU, essentially. But they stopped with all that. Like, why would they do that when they were making a ton of money off of it? It was the most popular, quote-unquote, gaming device in all time. But okay, so they switch it to they go to the Switch. Alright, are they gonna stay with it? Are we gonna have another iteration of the Switch, but more powerful? Are we convinced that Nintendo knows their worth and their place? Because let's be honest, they are I would say they're the leader when it comes to handheld gaming, and they're quickly losing that position to Steam. Right now, we have to give it to them, and that's where their niche, that's where their fit should be. They're not going to compete with the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, but a bunch of prideful men who created this company, are they really going to say, well, we had the Nintendo, we had the Super Nintendo, we're going to lose the console war, and we're going to take a back seat to these other companies while making a different product. We're going to adapt. You think they're going to do that? I don't know. I hope they do. I hope they say, hey, you know what? We don't have the power. We're not going to make a console that's going to compete with the PS5. Or by this point, it'd be PS6, to be honest. Like, that's where they have to focus. Instead, they'd just be behind again if they try to stay in that console market. And I don't know if they're going to. I don't know what they're going to think because, again, Nintendo does some really weird stuff. They sit on IPs that could make them a ton of money and they don't do anything with them. Or, hell, they will sit on fully done games that they delayed because of real-world conflict and they just keep them hidden away. I mean, we really don't know what they're going to do, and I think there's got to be an aspect of them that wants to think for the future. They want to be ahead, because they've been behind for so long. I mean, that's how they lost the console wars, so to speak. Back in the 64, if they would have went to a disc-based system, they would have had Final Fantasy, they would have had a lot of other IPs, they would have stayed way ahead of the competition, but decided to stick with the old cartridge, and I think they're in jeopardy of losing that war again to Steam. And I do think Steam could take them out. Steam has the power to do it. In fact, in some regard, Steam is in a much better place than Nintendo. So what we really want out of the Nintendo Switch Pro or the Switch 2 is just the same thing that they've given us, but with more power, right? But did they know that? Will they port the games over? Will we be able to play the hundreds and probably thousands of dollars we've spent on games in the next iteration of it? I don't know. And that's why I'm hesitant to be all up on a hype train for the Nintendo Switch Pro. And I think that's why a lot of people are that way too. Ultimately, though, that's just me thinking, and I don't know, I'm kind of curious what your ideas are on that. Like, are you excited for there to be a successor to the Switch, or do you have any sort of concerns about them making it as well? Like, where do you stand with that? Do you think Nintendo's going to do the right thing? Do you think Nintendo has the ability to hone themselves in to give the people what they want? I don't know, so far they're really not showing it. I love Nintendo. I love the Switch. I play it all the time, but my God, how long have we been asking for a Donkey Kong Country game? Just that simple. Hey, make that. Instead, what do? They make like a whole ass Donkey Kong World in Japan that no one can check out unless you live in Japan. Like, you know what I'm saying? You love these IPs, we love these IPs, but we can't actually play them. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it. But anyway, again, curious to hear what your thoughts are. Please comment down below. Like always, I'm wishing you guys health, wealth, and above all, I hope you're truly happy because you make me happy. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.